Hello. So let me start. Today, I'm gonna discuss with you an important concept that is the difference between BMI and weight gain. What is more important, BMI or monitoring weight gain? So let's start with a short introduction. As you know, there is an epidemic of obesity. These are data from the OECD. Uh, so, as you can see here, uh, countries like United States and Mexico and Chile, they have now in 2019, 2018-19, more than 70% of the citizens are either overweight or obese, basically two-thirds. And then, there are other countries, like Australia is close to 70%, New Zealand, Turkey, UK, Ireland, and here Germany, Estonia, and Italy is less than 50%, is around 40%. And then, we have Japan, where is around 27% people that are either overweight or obese. So as you can see, there is a huge distribution, from the super obese countries to the kind of very closed, basically many of the uh, Anglo-Saxon countries and also some South American countries, they have a high rate of obesity and overweight. Now, the question is just due to genetics? Well, let's look very quickly at this data. So these are data 1985. This is the prevalence of obesity, BMI higher than 30 in the different states of the US. So this is the percentage, okay? 10% of the population or 10 to 15% of the population of that state has obesity. So 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. In 1991, we start to have some states where obesity is between 15 and 20% of the population. Then, this is 92, 93, 94, 95. Most of, the East US has obesity between 15 and 20%, 80, 96, 97, we start to have states with more than 20% of obesity. 98, 99, most of the states, again, East, have 20% or more of obesity. 2000, 2001, we start to have, the first state with more than 25%. 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, we start to have, a couple of states, that have more than 30% people with obesity. 2010, we have, many states in the South, with more than 30% of obese individuals. And this is 2019, where, we start to have states with more than 35% of their citizens having obesity, and many states having between 30, this light, this orange is between 30 and 35, and the rest is basically between 25 and 30%. So this is cannot be genetic, from 2000 and 1985 to 2019 cannot be genes that are changing. This is a change in lifestyle, there's no doubt. And similar data, you can see here in Australia, where basically we have 71% of males and 56% of females that are either obese and overweight, and there is especially Queensland has a high rate of obesity. And again, here you can see these are data showing that, not only in the US, there's been a steady increase in the proportion of overweight and obese individuals, but the same is it happening in England, in Canada, in Spain, in Austria, even if it's less steep. Australia is huge. They were starting from a lower 1990, but now they are really increasing very rapidly. France, Korea, Italy, even if it's much less, but still there is a trend to increase in overweight and obesity. What is really worrying is that this increase in obesity is not only occurring in adults, but also in kids, in children. Here, kids between 12 and 19 or 6 and 11 years old, there is a steady increase in obesity. Now in US, we have around basically 20% or more of kids that have overweight and obesity. Similarly, in Italy, we have 32, the new data of Occhio alla Salute 2019, 32.2% of children between 8 and 9 years, they are either overweight or obese in Italy, and in Australia, similar is around 1/3, 27% of kids between 5 and 17 years, they are either overweight or obesity. And in Italy, there is a huge gradient between north and south, where in South the number of obese and overweight kids, it's much bigger than in the North Italy. And this is basically an interaction between genes and lifestyle, but lifestyle plays a major role. As you can see here in US, with the increase in obesity, there is also an increase in the size of soft drinks. In 1955, a regular soft drink was 7 ounces, so 200 ml. And then in today's, the average is 354. Then there is the largest soda, the big gulp, the super size, the mega jug, all this, the team gulp. So, you go from 207 to basically almost 3 liters of soft drinks with basically 1,200 calories here. There are 1,200 calories of extra empty calories. And so again, a huge increase in the size of soft drinks. There's also been, from, if you look 1950 now, this is a kind of old slide, so it's not now 2021, but still in the 1950, the average size of fries or hamburgers was a fraction of what they are now, what you can buy now in one of these fast foods. And everything, the bagel, the cheeseburger, the French fry sizes, and you go, for example, from 210 calories, and with these to 610. So there are 400 calories more here. Almost 300 calories more. The bagel is 200 calories more. Based on how big they are, and then we have all these advertisement with buy one get one free, these very refined, super refined carbs, with cheese and ham and oil and a lot of snacks, sweet and salty snacks. It's everywhere, in the diet of kids and adults, and all these combined with a very high consumption of animal products. As you can see here, 1910, the consumption of chicken in US was around around 15, no, 20, less than 20 20 pounds per year of trimmed meat, boneless, okay? And as you can see here, over the years has exploded, and in 2008 was from 20 to 60. The beef consumption went up, now is slightly lower, but still it's very high compared to many other countries. Pork consumption, it's slightly increasing. Eggs consumption has decreased, but chicken and turkey, all these, and again beef has increased quite substantially. So the consumption of the American consumption, and not only the American consumption, the consumption of meat, it's increasing everywhere. And as you can see in this study published by Walter Willett and Frank Hu in the New England in 2011, the food, the type of food that is more associated with obesity is potato chips, as you can see here, fries, processed meat, unprocessed meat, red meat, butter, sweet and desserts, and refined grains, and of course, soda, so sugar, rich beverage, and even fruit juice, instead of yogurt, fruit, whole grains, nuts, vegetables are negatively associated with weight gain and obesity. Okay. The other problem, as you know, is the sedentary lifestyle that is pretty. It's a real problem in our industrialized societies. You know, people they can spend their entire life from one chair to the elevator to the car, back to the elevator, chair, bed, and unfortunately also the kids, many kids, you know, they are spending many hours in front of a TV or a tablet or a PlayStation, you know, and they have basically constant exposure to salty or sweets and soda and other highly processed food that are really a poison for the body. Okay, so everybody knows, you know, the classification of obesity, normal weight, and overweight, and obese. And so this is an important concept that I would like to discuss with you today. So this was just an introduction, you know, but the real problem is that BMI is good for epidemiological studies, you know, because as we know from this study published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition 2000, there is a very nice correlation at the population level, because then, you know, you can see here how much difference, you know, if you look at the BMI, the percentage of body fat in women is pretty amazing. You know, you go from, you know, 15% to 40% fat with the same BMI. Also here in men, you know, you go from 5% to 12% with a BMI of 20. Okay, so there is, but in general, if you look at the population, there is a linear correlation between BMI and body fat. The problem is that, you know, as you can see here, despite, you know, the classification with normal BMI between 18.5 and 25, there is a U-shaped relationship, and it looks like that overweight people, they have a lower mortality than normal weight people. So people with a BMI between 25 and 30, in many epidemiological studies, they have a lower mortality than people with a BMI between 18.5 and 25. Even if even in people who are never smokers, you see this J-shaped relationship. This is a paper published in Lancet in 2009. Then there is the Flegel, the classical Flegel paper published in JAMA in 2013, again finding the same results, this J-U-shaped relationship. So BMI is not a good measurement of metabolic health and the risk of disease. And yet, you know, when this paper was published, you know, all the newspaper and magazines of US and the entire world, you know, they said, studies suggest that lower mortality risk for people deemed to be overweight. The Washington Post, extra weight said won't raise death risk. The Time magazine, being overweight is linked to lower risk of mortality. So at that time, I was in Harvard giving a lecture, and with Frank Hu and Walter Willett, we said, look, let's do some serious analysis because there is something wrong here. And so what we did, we stratified people these are participants of the nurse health study and professional health study. We stratified them, for BMI, as you can see here. BMI between 18.5 and 22.5, 22.5 and 25, 25, 30, and more than 30. But we also stratified these participants, these men and women, for healthy lifestyle factors, with 0 meaning people that were engaging in unhealthy lifestyle, so sedentary, smoking, over drinking, and eating refined, processed, and a lot of animal products. And then we have a progression of 1 healthy lifestyle factors, 2 or 3 or 4. 3 or 4 means, these people here, they were exercising half an hour a day. They were eating more whole grains and beans and vegetables, fish, and less red meat and processed food. They were non-smokers, and they didn't drink more than 2 drinks per day for men and 1 for female. So as you can clearly see here, in the unhealthy people, yes, there is this U-shaped mortality. So people with the BMI between 18.5 and 25, they have the same high mortality than the obese individuals. But in the people who were healthy, they were engaging in healthy lifestyles, the lower risk of mortality, 60% less than reference group, was in those that were exercising, eating healthier, and not smokers, and not drinking in excess. And the other important result of this study, that even in obese individuals or in overweight individuals, as the number of healthy risk factors, healthy lifestyle factors increased, the mortality decreased. So even in obese individuals, engaging in healthy lifestyle reduces, essentially with a lower risk of all-cause mortality, cancer mortality, and cardiovascular mortality. So we published this paper in BMJ in 2016. So this paper, again, reinforces the idea that BMI by itself, on an individual basis, as a doctor using BMI to decide if someone should benefit from a healthy lifestyle counseling, it's not good. And that's the important point that I want to make. By the way, you know how many people in the nurse health study and health professional studies, they had a BMI less than 25 because they were eating a healthy diet, exercising regularly, and non-smoking? Less than 20% of males and less than 88% of females, meaning that, the remaining 80% of people with a BMI lower than 25, basically they were lean for other reasons than health, probably because they were losing weight for some disease that were not manifest yet. So they had these aging processes going on that was basically making them losing weight. Now, as I said, what is important is that there is a abnormal perception of overweight obesity, not only in the people who are overweight and obese. Less than half then of the overweight people consider themselves to have a high body weight, and and more than 1 in 10 obese individuals, they think that their body weight is okay, it's normal. Okay, so there is abnormal perception of the degree of overweight and obesity in people, but not only in people, even in doctors. So several studies are suggesting that doctors and other health professionals often do not pay attention to weight gain until the patient is at much higher BMI than what is classically defined as obese. And results of several studies in UK and US have shown that not only obese, but many overweight people express a desire to lose weight, but less than 20% of them report and have been recommended by a doctor or a health professional to lose weight. And those who have been recommended, they have a tendency to engage higher 50%, almost 50% of them, they try to lose weight. Now, the important point that, I want to discuss with you today is this one, that BMI is not a good parameter for doctors, health professional people to judge if they need to do something to reduce the risk of developing chronic disease as they age. Weight gain during early and middle adulthood is a much better marker that everybody should monitor, including doctors. So let's make an example. A girl that is 19 years old and is 170 centimeters tall and weighs 55 kilos. So this is a classical, teenager, freshman, a fresh girl who starts university that is engaging in physical activity, and basically her BMI is around 19. If she gains 6 kilos over, let's say, 5-6 years, on average, people, they gain between half a kilo, 1 kilo based on what we know, based on the statistical data. On average, people, they gain between half a kilo and 1 kilo per year since they are 18, 20 years old. So let's say, this girl gains 6 kilos. Her BMI at 25, when she's 25, is 21.1. If she gains basically 12 kilos, her BMI is still 23.2. If she gains 22 kilos, her BMI is just borderline overweight, so 26.6. She has to gain basically 32 kilos to become obese, 30.1. And this is, unfortunately, if you look many people around you, this is very common. If you look at many young people, at the end of high school, beginning of the college, they are, especially if they're exercising. Again, right now, we know with the epidemic of obesity in children and teenager, it's less common. But, when I was younger, at my age, when I was a teenager, 99% of my friends and were lean, and many of them, they have gained weight as they got older. And this is not physiological at all. This is not physiological. This is due to a more sedentary lifestyle, eating more, working harder, and no time to exercise, to move. After they go back home, they start to eat, and then they watch TV without doing anything. And the problem is that many epidemiological studies, including this one published in JAMA by Frank Hu and Willett in 2017, shows that as people gain weight during adulthood, there is a major increase in chronic disease. Even 2.5 kilos, but definitely if you gain between 5 and 10 kilos from your ideal body weight when you were 18, 20 years old, if you gain between 5, 10 kilos, and then 10 and 15 and 20 15 and 20 kilos, 20, 25 kilos. As you can see, there is a linear increase in your risk of developing major chronic diseases in both women and men. And again, this is a paper in New England by Willett in 1999 showing the strong relationship between weight gain and type 2 diabetes, hypertension, coronary disease. And the JAMA paper in 2017 shows, again, for every 5 kilos of weight gain during adulthood, there is a almost 40% increase in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. That, as you know, is a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease, retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy. There is a considerably higher risk of developing hypertension. There is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart failure. There is atrial fibrillation. There is a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, of obesity-related cancer like breast, prostate, colon, endometrial, and liver, and gastric, esophageal. And then there is a higher risk of gallbladder disease, osteoarthritis, and mortality, and a much lower probability of aging in a healthy way. For every 5 kilos weight gain from the ideal body weight when people were teenager and lean because they were exercising. In contrast, so that's the story. So basically the message is that try not to gain weight. Try not to gain more than 5 kilos during adulthood. So that's the message. And for doctors, the message is that instead of measuring BMI and just judging if someone should do something about their BMI, about their health, and doing normally and counseling people to do something only if they have a BMI higher than 30, they should ask their patients if they have gained weight and how much weight they gained since they were teenagers. And if they gain more than 5 kilos, they should consider counseling them, to lose weight. Because, if you stop, if you stop this weight gain when people that have gained 3, 4, 5, 6 kilos, it's much, much easier to go back to normal. As the weight spirals out of control, it's much more difficult to go back to normal, okay? Now, as you can see here, this is a study but even if people, they have gained weight, there is a lot you can do. So it's not like a death sentence, not at all. If you gain weight and you lose weight with diet, calorie restriction, exercise, like in this study, that we did at Washington University with John Hollinsey, with my dear friend, John Hollinsey, we recruited overweight people, BMI between 25 and 30, 50 to 60 years old, and we randomized them to control or exercise without calorie restriction or calorie restriction without exercise for 1 year. And as you can see here, we were able to achieve an 8% weight loss. This is beautiful. Just with exercising every day, supervised exercise during the week, and then unsupervised during the weekend, we were able to achieve a 8% weight loss in these middle-aged, overweight men and women. We got a 25% reduction in body weight measured by DEXA, a 35% reduction in visceral fat measured by MRI. We got a significant reduction in leptin, a significant increase in adiponectin, the insulin sensitizer hormone produced by fat cells. We got a significant improvement in insulin sensitivity, HOMA, Matsuda, glucose tolerance, And we had a significant reduction in total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, a significant increase in HDL cholesterol, especially with exercise, and a significant improvement, as I said, in insulin sensitivity, and a significant reduction in inflammation that was stronger with calorie restriction than with exercise. Now, even in younger and leaner people, losing weight improves cardiometabolic risk factors and hormonal risk factors associated with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, vascular dementia, and aging. So in this study, we did this is a multi-center study, WashU, Tufts, Pennington. We recruited 120 people, randomized 145 to 25% calorie restriction and 75 to control. These were 20 to 50 years old, so young men and women, BMI between 22 and 28. And we didn't achieve a 25% calorie restriction. On average, we got a 13% calorie restriction. These people, they lost 8 kilos over 1 year and then remain, some of them remain weight stable. Some people, they regain weight. It was 70% of this weight was a reduction in body fat measured by DEXA. The BMI went from 25.2 to 22.6. And as we publish in this paper in Lancet Diabetes Endocrinology, all the cardiometabolic risk factors, all of them improved dramatically at a super physiological level. So these people, they had a fantastic optimal cardiometabolic profile after calorie restriction. So there was a reduction in total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and increase in HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol, a major reduction in triglycerides. So the VLDL, the triglyceride-rich lipoprotein that seems to be very important now for atherosclerosis. A significant major improvement in insulin sensitivity, Matsuda, HOMA, and many other index of insulin sensitivity. We had a significant reduction in systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure, and a major improvement in the metabolic syndrome score. Not only we had a significant reduction in C-reactive protein and TNF-alpha, and a major reduction in circulating white blood cells, neutrophil, lymphocytes, and monocytes. This is very important because there are recent data from Harvard showing that at least in animals, higher circulating levels of white blood cells produced by the bone marrow are traveling to the atherosclerotic plaques, and they are increasing the risk of progression of atherosclerotic plaques. So it's not just the pro-inflammatory cytokines, but the number of circulating monocytes and lymphocytes and neutrophils in the circulation. They are relocating themselves in the atherosclerotic plaques, and they are promoting the progression of atherosclerosis and erosion, and therefore the risk of having a myocardial infarction of a stroke. And we knew from other studies that I did, calorie restriction and exercise have a huge effect in lowering inflammation, and especially all these circulating white blood cells. And also we found, among many other things, I don't have time to go into the details, that this mild reduction, 8 kilos of weight loss, was responsible for a significant reduction in F2 isoprostanes, urinary F2 isoprostane. That is the gold standard to measure oxidative stress. Then, we had an improvement in IGF-BP1 and insulin and other factors that are risk factor for cancer. So for today is enough. The final message in summary is we should try to avoid weight gain during adulthood. Doctors should ask their patients if they have gained weight during their adulthood. And even if they have a normal BMI or they are slightly overweight, if they have gained more than 5 kilos because they went from 22 to 26, and they gain, between 5 and 10 kilos, or even worse, 10 and 15 kilos, they should lose weight and try to go back, or at least a tendency to go back to their original body weight. And exercise and nutrition are important. I don't have time to go into the details of how different type of exercise and how exercise works, and how different type of dietary intervention can maximize weight loss or weight maintenance. And that's it. That's the message for today. Weight gain, monitoring weight gain is super important. When you gain weight, you have an increase in inflammation, in insulin resistance, you have a reduction in IGF-BP1 and dyslipidemia that are driving aging, cancer, cardiovascular disease. When you lose weight, as I showed you before, you have the opposite results. You have a reduction in inflammation, oxidative stress, you have an improvement in all cardiometabolic risk factors, and other hormones that are reducing the risk of cancer. And for today, I thank you for listening, and bye-bye.